I wanted to try to put a whole bunch of things together at the start of the show that are part of why maybe we're feeling a little bit anxious, a little bit different, a little bit discombobulated at the moment. Now, the reality is for months and months and months, I've been telling you that about half of the country believes that we're headed in the wrong direction. Now, in reality, most people assume that to be the economy, but I think if we're being really honest, it's about literally everything. It is about society. It is about values, a whole collection of things. Or, to put it more simply, remember this ad?
9, 10.
Not happy, Jan!
We remember it, right? Well, of course, cost of living front and centre is one of those examples about why we aren't happy, Jan, right? Why we are frustrated, why we understand that we're part of a bigger world and a bigger country and there's lots more complicated things that happen. Like, why does your power bill have to be so high? Oh, that's right, because we're getting rid of the thing that worked and replacing it with the thing that makes us feel good. But businesses have to pay way through the roof. Petrol, they bang on about it every single night. This government's apparently about to boost another surplus. Well, could they cut some petrol taxes so there's some relief somewhere, particularly for people in places like Renmark that are going to drive a fair way to Mildura, let alone Adelaide or anywhere else in between? Well, we learned today via the Courier Mail that there's a significant number of people, particularly in Queensland, that are right on the line. Now, this matters. It's not just about politics, it's just about a reference to how our fellow Australian is doing. Now, of course, in Canberra, they're happy because we're getting ready for another second budget surplus. If we go off to a federal election, we give ourselves a good gold star, we mark our own homework, how good are we? But the reality for Australia right now is that 1 in 4 Queenslanders are on the edge of financial risk, and a third are worried about if they can make the mortgage repayment or the rental repayment. The reality, of course, of the Reserve Bank right now when it comes to interest rates is that even if nothing happens this month and nothing happens next month, you still have to find something between $15,000 and more than $30,000 than before this bloke became the Prime Minister to actually pay off on top of everything else you had to pay off before. But the polling for the Courier Mail, let's continue on with that here, suggests that 80% of Queenslanders are resorting to stringent cost-cutting measures. We're now not cutting fat, we're cutting down to the bone. Because more than half are now saying that they're reducing the amount that they are spending on food as a way of being able to financially survive. Young people are being whacked particularly, with 22% of people telling the pollsters, aged between 18 and 34, that they were close to a financial breaking point. Another 10% admit that they're already there. Why does half of the country feel that we're headed in the wrong direction? I told you before. About 2 million Australians, sorry, my apologies, about 9 million Australians have got less than $1,000 in the bank. Of those, most have got $210 in the bank. Oh, but the government's managing the economy amazingly. Perhaps another reason why we think things are headed in the wrong direction is the sheer number of people that this government in particular is bringing into the country. Now, they'll tell us they need it because there's not enough skilled welders and there's not enough this and there's not enough that. And, of course, immigration plays a role. All of us have some connection to family from somewhere else. And, again, I say for the smart asses that are watching and marking my homework and about to send it off to the umpire, it's not about where you come from. It's not about what you believe. It's not about your skin colour, all of that stuff. When I talk about immigration, I simply talk about a joint that's got 27 million people in it with infrastructure from when we had 20 million people in it. And if we're going to be moving towards 40 million people in a couple of decades' time, we're probably going to have to build a few more hospitals, some slightly wider roads. We have to have more housing. Again, right now, the pressure that's on Australian housing right now is obvious because just the kids moving out of the homes of the previous generation, let alone the hundreds of thousands of people that are being brought in, it is causing trouble, which is why people think we're headed in the wrong direction. And an opinion poll is now starting to match the same when it comes to attitudes towards mass migration and big migration, hence why Albo's trying to pretend that they're trying to sort of put it back in the horse. But the reality is record month of January, record month of February. And according to the Redbridge polling, which is a lefty polling group, political attitudes of Australians towards immigration are now starting to turn hostile. Again, not because people are afraid of people who sound different than the way their parents do, or what they believe in, and all of that stuff that Channel 2 will try and convince us is some sort of dog whistle on racism. It's because 70% are now saying it's harder for young people to buy a house. 45% of voters say that they'd be likely or much more likely to vote for a party that is committed to seriously cutting immigration.